All right, so I wanted to share this story first because it kind of hits home, but also it's almost like a continuation of the story that I had done on Vanessa Guillen.
Right.
So it says, Brockton soldier missing from Fort Hood found dead, family says. So I don't know if you guys remember the story of Vanessa Guillen that I went over about like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, there's been more about Fort Hood in the news, and Tulsi tweeted out something regarding someone getting killed there.
Right.
Yeah.
So again, this is from the Boston Globe. This story is from August 26th. And this is Sergeant Elder Fernandez. All right. And so it says the family of Sergeant Elder Fernandez learned late Tuesday night that the young soldier's body had been found hanging from a tree
God.
about 25 miles from Fort Hood, from which
Oh,
he
it's horrible.
disappeared more than a week ago, the family's lawyer said. A person walking near a railroad track in Temple, Texas, spotted Fernandez's body at about 5:40 p.m. And the lawyer for the family is Natalie Kawam, which is the same lawyer as the family for Vanessa Guillen. And so it says, we will not stop until we find out what happened to Elder, the statement said. We must demand a congressional investigation of Fort Hood. We must protect our soldiers. I mean, I don't understand how many more people this has to happen to in order for them to actually take this seriously, like the Congress to actually look and actually do an investigation on this. So it says, when Ailina Fernandez flew to Texas last week out of concern for her son, she was in the dark about so much. The Brockton mother did not know her son had reported a sexual assault by a superior officer, or that the 23-year-old had since been traumatized and harassed and grown suicidal. She did not know he had been reassigned to a new unit within his brigade for his safety. She knew her son had been hospitalized since August 11th, but she didn't know why. Her son and her had been cryptic in their daily phone conversations, saying he needed to clear his head and would call after he was discharged, but he never did. Earlier Tuesday, just a couple hours before her son's body was found, Ailina Fernandez told the Boston Globe in an exclusive interview that she last spoke to her son on August 16th. When she didn't hear from him after that, she called the base and found that he had been discharged from the hospital on the 17th and hadn't been seen since. A staff sergeant dropped him off at his off-base home. When Elder Fernandez didn't show up for work the next day, his mother decided to buy a plane ticket. I just can't go back to Boston without my son, Ailina Fernandez said by phone. I need answers. I can't resume my life not knowing. And I'm sure that obviously her son missing is a big deal, but the fact that this comes after so many other people have gone missing, I'm sure that this was like, alarm bells went off for this poor woman,
Do you have an idea about how many people we're talking at this point?
So it goes on later to talk about it, but just this year, it's 10 bodies have been found.
Oh, shit, that's just horrific. So yeah, I did find August 21st, Tulsi did tweet a story regarding this. So hopefully, I mean, other people just getting it out there in the news, Daisy, you're doing your part to basically say, absolutely, needs to be a major investigation. I'm really glad that one lawyer or investigator is looking at multiple cases, right, to try and track what are the similarities going across them,
Yeah.
That's just the kind of work we need done.
Yeah. I mean, it's just baffling to understand that obviously something is going on in this area. For him, it's that they're saying that he committed suicide. And later on in the story, it kind of goes into that. But, when you have just this year alone, like it says here, in a disturbing series of disappearances, Elder Fernandez was the 10th soldier to vanish from Fort Hood in a year. 5 of the cases have been deemed unsolved homicides, according to the nonprofit Missing People in America, which that's the site that I used the last time that I was talking about this story. But yeah, I mean, obviously, like something is going on, whether it's that it's the actual culture there, or it's that someone specifically is doing something, like, but something is going on. And the fact that this is going on with our soldiers and that this is made a bigger deal, that's what I don't understand. Like, this is,
So
I
my
mean,
guess it would be a combination of those things. Both the climate and the environment don't allow for support of people that are being pressured, peer pressured, put under duress, and some individuals are somehow targeting them. That's what I would think.
I
That's just
mean,
my
yeah,
speculation.
that's
Yeah.
what would make sense.
I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, these people don't have support that this keeps happening to these individuals.
Do you think there's a parallel between the extrajudicial, these kinds of whatever these killings, which for whatever reason we don't necessarily know, but it seems like any kind of investigation is suppressed, and there's not any due diligence done with these investigations of these, obviously more than you statistically would expect from this amount of people, right? That this many people would be killed and or disappear or whatever. Do you think there's a parallel between that and kind of the extrajudicial, killings by the police in like cities around the country, like that mentality that you can get away with
Yeah.
it?
Yeah.
And is that something
Yeah.
that
And
we're
some kind of
moving in that direction? It seems like there's, with Tucker Carlson, kind of condoning the behavior of, a 17-year-old with a semi-automatic, gun in Kenosha, Wisconsin, and the police not basically, condoning that as well, and this kind of behavior. And are you really going to see Congress get to the bottom of it, so to speak, or is it going to take something more than that?
So my guess is there definitely is a comparison to like a blue wall of silence with the police, right? They're basically they're putting up barriers, and outside folks not want to get involved in that internal matter, right? Like they don't really want to jump into the middle of a police investigation if the police are handling themselves. They don't want to jump into something that's an army internal matter that might be, but we need to. I mean, at this point, it's just, we're talking a death a month for the year, right? And that's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely think it has to be some sort of combination of all these things, and I definitely think that plays a major hand in it, because obviously these investigations are being done internally, and you remember how last time when I was talking about the Vanessa Guillen story, they're pushing for legislation so that they can have a third party come in and investigate these things, because how is it that you can actually expect for a true investigation, true and just investigation to be conducted on themselves? The same exact thing like what you were saying with the blue wall.
Right.
And later on in the story, I'll read on, they talk about how he was harassed by after he made his complaint, he was harassed by his fellow soldiers because of the fact that he spoke up. And that is something that is a major issue. That's a major reason why a lot of women that go and they are raped and harassed and all that in the military, they can't speak up because of the backlash that they get from these people. And you got to remember that, I mean, these people are not in combat, but when you're out in combat, that really does mess with the camaraderie. If you have somebody amongst your ranks, that I'm saying this is how they look at it, that if
Right.
you have somebody amongst your ranks that is willing to snitch or just like is not tough enough or whatever it may be, you know what I'm saying, like it makes it so that person either doesn't feel comfortable, doesn't feel like their comrades or their fellow soldiers are going to take care of them, when they're out in combat. And it also doesn't, the other people, they don't feel like they can trust this person. It all comes down to trust, obviously.
Yeah.
But having that blind trust where it's very like a mafia, like you can't have the military running like the mafia, even though it feels kind of like it's been like that for a while now.
Oh yeah, it's like the mafia or the DNC. It's all about loyalty, right?
Yeah.
I love making that comparison.
So it says, in a statement issued before Fernandez's family confirmed his death, the Army said that finding the soldier and resuming the care he was receiving before his recent absence remains the top priority of the 1st Cavalry Division. Bullshit. We continue to believe Sergeant Fernandez left on his own accord, and there is no connection between his disappearance and any other ongoing cases at Fort Hood, military officials said in a statement posted to Facebook. Exactly like what happened with Vanessa Guillen, right? They said, oh, no, there's no, it has nothing to do, one has nothing to do with the fact that, she had just reported sexual harassment from a superior. Right. It says, even though the family now knows circumstances took a dark turn for the young soldier on the gigantic Army base halfway between Austin and Waco, they insisted he would not harm himself. They believed their loved one was scared and hiding, which, I mean, at the same time, so it goes on to kind of paint the picture that maybe, he was going through depression, and they talk about how in like Facebook posts that he had, cryptically talked about certain things. So it just feels like they're kind of they're kind of carrying water for Fort Hood, for this investigation, really, when they're talking about all this stuff. Because I'm sorry, dude, but I don't believe in coincidences, and I just think that this is just way too many coming all at once.
Absolutely.
If Elder Fernandez did hurt himself, it is the Army's fault, his mother said. So, like I said, they go on to talk about all this kind of stuff. And it says, and then it talks about how Fernandez's family has hired the same lawyer. And it says, people have to be held accountable for what they've done here, Quam said Tuesday. Enough is enough. These families all need answers. Fernandez reported in May that a male superior staff sergeant had groped him in April in a supply closet. And the story that had happened with Vanessa Guillen, it was that her superior walked in on her taking a shower, and the superior stood there and watched her as she took a shower, even though obviously she asked him to leave, but he forced her to continue taking a shower. It says a spokesperson for the 1st Cavalry Division has confirmed an open investigation of abusive sexual contact involving Elder Fernandez. So at least with this one, they actually admit that yes, there is an open investigation to it. Things got worse for Fernandez. The sexually abusive staff sergeant started following and harassing Fernandez, Kawam said. Superiors at his job bullied him. Fellow soldiers teased and picked on him, she said. So, I mean, obviously, if you are like what this is telling me is that, again, this is just it's creating that culture in which sexual assault victims, they already have a hard enough time coming out and speaking out about things, but in this sort of environment, we unless there is a congressional investigation into this, like a serious one, this is
don't hold your breath, Daisy. Don't hold your breath.
Listen. See,
I mean,
I actually need to talk to you about this, because like every single time that I bring up something, you always say that it's not going to happen, that don't hold your breath, that blah, blah, blah. I understand this. I'm just saying that this is what needs to happen. I understand it's most likely not going to happen, and that, nothing's going to come out of this. Okay. But it needs to happen. Yeah. I live in a world where we need to put shit out there. We need to hold people accountable, and I think that ultimately is what this comes down to.
But it's just getting worse, and I think Fort Hood is just is just like Trump is a symptom. Fort Hood is a symptom of the bigger problem, which is the rising mentality of I mean, I guess fascism, for lack of a better word, but I mean, it's a reaction to decades of inability to get anything done, to gridlock and everything, and people feeling like we have to do whatever it takes to make change, and that's why Trump got elected. And I think the Democrats cover for the corporate Democrats are just cover for the Republicans or for that. But I mean, the whole thing is like there is a mentality that goes through the military. Elements of the military, elements of police departments, and elements of the culture at large. I mean, look at just you see it in the media, you see it everywhere. I mean, I think there's a feeling that that somehow we can't follow the rules anymore. We have to have it kind of an unwritten uh, agreement, or whatever, and kind of take things into our own hands. And I think that's the mentality that you see in Fort Hood, and you see it in the police departments, and you see it around the country. I mean, that's what scares me. And a congressional investigation, that's like they, at this point, I don't see them. I agree that you need to do something, but I don't see them doing it at this point. I think we need a bigger solution, and
I
maybe
know,
the People's Party is part of
I
it.
think ultimately, well, first of all, I don't think that that's going to be the whole solution either. But I mean, ultimately, what I think is that we have to hold these people to account. We can't be apathetic. And I feel like to a certain extent, that's what's happened, is that we are getting to the point where we're just saying,
Exactly.
well, we can't change them, so fuck it. Let's not even talk about it, or let's not even try to do anything. And I feel like that is more dangerous than what's going on right now.
And
I feel like go ahead.
Well, in the large picture, there is some points of hope in tomorrow in both the People's Convention and the vote for the Articles of Unity, which will be happening tomorrow. So there are a whole lot of people out there that agree with us that are like, things have to radically change. Our leadership fails us completely. I mean, this is just, I agree that this is just a symptom. Just look at the lack of leadership in COVID, and leave it both in addressing the disease and addressing the effects on the people financially and health wise.
Well, there's no program. I mean, that's the thing. Like neither the Republicans or the Democrats are really presenting a program. I mean,
hold on. Let's stay on this topic though.
Yeah,
we're going to talk about something else, and then we're going to talk about something else. But
let's go for it. Continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it says Isabel Fernandez, the soldier's aunt, turned to Massachusetts Representative Liz Miranda, a fellow Cape Verdean, for help. Miranda, in turn, collaborated with U.S. Senators Ed Markey and Elizabeth Warren and State Representative Gerard Cassidy. The lawmakers called for a congressional investigation and pressured the Army to provide information to the Fernandez family. So again, like I said, this is something that we already have. Like Tulsi, she had held a press conference weeks ago calling for a congressional investigation. Now we have this happen, and we see that now we have what are considered more heavy hitters or whatever it may be. You know what I'm saying? People that have a little bit more pull in the sense of Elizabeth Warren and Ed Markey. And even if they use this as something that they can, use it for their platform or, like for their next reelection, it's something that the more voices that we have calling for this, the more seriousness that's attached to it. And even if it's just a matter of, it looks like it's a good thing to do, well, I don't care. I want something like this. This has got to end.
Yeah, it would be great if they got some Texas politicians involved in that as well, right? I mean, It's happening in your backyard. Take care of it.
Right. And I think that's the thing, that this involving someone from Massachusetts, and not just involving people that live in Texas. Well, now it's becoming a thing where, your constituents are dying,
right,
while they're serving our country. So what are you going to do about it?
Yep.
Like that's ultimately what it's coming down to. I mean, this is nuts. And then the final thing is it says the military won't tell Elder Fernandez's mother any details about his hospitalization, citing patient privacy rights under HIPAA, which I just think is such bullshit, because he passed. Why can't you give out this information? He passed away already.
Well, also HIPAA allows for the rights of next of kin, et cetera, like that. It's not like that's in a. It's crazy. Somebody that's passed, that HIPAA does. I'm sure that it does allow for that.
I just
that
feel
can't
like
be
it's an
correct.
excuse. It's an
Yeah.
excuse so that the military doesn't actually have to release any sort of information,
Right.
because I'm sure that they had to have done some sort of, like, obviously psychological evaluation. They had to have, even if, what about if there was like physical evidence of some sort of, assault that was done on him? I'm sure that they had to document that kind of stuff. And again,
Yes.
it's more evidence that would prove that something serious is going on here, and that it wasn't just that he decided to go and hang himself, which is, again, 23 years old. All those people that I was mentioning, in the last time that we were talking about this, 19 years old, 20 years old, 23 years old. That is just the saddest thing. And this,
absolutely.
And he was like, he was someone who, like Vanessa Guillen, had all his life had wanted to be a part of the military. His dad is, also a part of the military, and I don't know, all this stuff just like,
it's horrible.
Really, it's horrible. Yeah. That's why I was like, all right, well, I guess if you want to start with that.
Okay.
Oh. No, but that's important, because we're saying it brings in to play, like, all aspects of leadership. How is there not something triggered at this point? How can you not break through? There is the comparison to the blue wall of the police. How can you have this structure that obviously can't police itself effectively, and why isn't there a mechanism that doesn't bring in outside officials to take a look at that, right? So it's really current with everything we're saying about the police as well.
I think there has to be.
And honestly, if we can't even investigate this with our military, that supposedly everyone loves our military and our service people and all, they're the number one people that we care about.
Right.
Then how do we expect for anything to change with policing at all?
Yeah. Yeah. True.
Sorry, Steve, you're going to say something.
No, I was just saying that there obviously is some complicity that goes beyond that. I mean, obviously, people feel empowered to suppress investigations or not do the investigations, and I feel like there's some complicity that goes beyond that. It's a cultural shift I see happening. It's a very dangerous trend, because the next step is like, oh, we're just going to start randomly shooting people we don't like or whatever, and kind of just, well, that's okay because we're maintaining order or whatever. I see it's a very slippery slope and a very dangerous slope, and I think the problem is there has been no strong political leadership in this country for decades. And as a result, you have a vacuum, and this is what's filling the vacuum, and that's why it's so important to have an alternative like the People's Party or anybody who's coming up with a constructive vision of what we're trying to move towards, what we're trying to achieve, rather than some kind of genocidal, fascist, Hitler type thing. I mean, I'm not one of these people comparing Trump to Hitler, but I see us culturally moving in this direction, and I see the Democrats as complicit as the Republicans. I don't see it as being one party, but I think it's an extremely dangerous trend. And yes, we need to have investigations, obviously, and get to the bottom of it. But we also need to have push the alternatives, because young people. I mean, these like Kyle, what was his name? Kyle Rittenhouse in Kenosha. I mean, why are these people? Like, that's what they're looking for. They think they're helping out or something, because there's no alternative. There's no vision and the Democrats certainly aren't providing that vision. And that's why I want to. Hopefully, we'll talk about the People's Party, and Jim, maybe you can